Al Sapienza, and it is an honor and a privilege to host this 2021 Memorial Day service at the SS Lake Victory Maritime Center. And Memorial Day is a day where Americans and its citizens honor those who put their lives on the line for our freedoms, and especially for those and families of those who lost their lives for our freedom. I'd like to say personally, I truly don't believe we can thank you enough. It's just your service is incredible. It's just everything we have in this world. So, due to the current health restrictions, we're not able to open Memorial Day guests as we have every year, but we are live streaming. And please practice the CDC guidelines for social distancing. So our first, for our first moment, please stand for the presentation of the colors by Lieutenant Joe Gayton. He's an officer, the Battleship Iowa Division, NSCC, and Sea Cadets in the Coral Sea Division. Gentlemen.
National anthem after this.
Please be seated for a moment. My dad served in World War II. You're probably wondering why they had an actor in the ceremony. I want to read a very short story about the true origin of our national anthem. And many people don't know this, and my personal opinion is that every American should know the story that led to the writing of that poem, eventually the song, the national anthem. Francis Scott Key, he was a lawyer in Baltimore, and the colonies were engaged in a vicious conflict with our mother country, Britain. Because of this conflict, we accumulated prisoners on both sides. The American government initiated a movement. They went to the British and they said, let us negotiate for the release of these prisoners. The British were holding the American prisoners in boats about 1,000 yards off the shore of Baltimore. The Americans said they wanted to send a man, Francis Scott Key. He'll come out and negotiate and see if we can make a mutual exchange. On the appointed day, he went out in a rowboat and he negotiated with the British officials. And they reached the conclusion that men could be exchanged on a one-to-one basis. Francis Scott Key, jubilant at the fact that he'd been successful, went down below in the boats, and what he found were cargo holds full of men in chains, Americans. And he said, men, I have news for you. Tonight, you're free. Tonight, I have negotiated your return to the colonies. You'll be taken out of this boat, out of this filth, and out of these chains. As he went back up on board to arrange for their passage to the shore, the admiral came, and he said, we have a slight problem. We'll still honor our commitment to release these men, but it'll be merely academic after tonight. It won't matter. And Francis Scott Key said, what do you mean? The admiral said, Mr. Key, tonight we have laid an ultimatum upon the colonies. Your people will either capitulate and lay down the colors of that flag, which you think so much of, or you see that fort over there, Fort Rennard? We're going to remove it from the face of the earth. He said, are you going to do that? The admiral said, if you will, scan the horizon, the sea. And as Key looked, he could see hundreds of little dots. The admiral said, that's the entire British war fleet. All of the gunpowder, all of the armament is being called upon to demolish that fort. They'll be here within striking distance in a matter of 2.5 hours. The war will be over. These men will be free anyway. He said, you can't shell that fort. It's a large fort. It's filled with women and children. It's predominantly not a military fort. The admiral said, don't worry about it. We left them in out. He said, what's that? The admiral said, you see that flag up on the rampart? We've told them that if they will lower that flag, the shelling will stop. And we will know that they've surrendered, and you'll again be under English rule. This is a true story. Francis Scott Key went down below and told the men. And they said, how many boats? He said, hundreds. The ships got closer. Scott Key went back up on top. He said to the men, I'll shout down to you what's going on as we watch. As twilight began to fall, and as the haze came over the ocean as it does at sunset, the British war fleet unleashed. He said the sound was deafening. There were so many guns, it was absolutely impossible to talk or hear. The sky, although dark, was now suddenly lit. From down below, all Key could hear were the prisoners shouting, tell us where the flag is! What have they done with the flag? Is the flag still flying over the rampart? Tell us! 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours into the shelling. Every time a bomb would explode close to the flag, they could see the flag in the illuminated red glare of that bomb. And Francis Scott Key would report to the men below, it's still up. It's not down. The admiral came and he said, the people are insane. What's the matter with them? Don't they understand this is an impossible situation? Francis Scott Key said he remembered what George Washington told him. The thing that sets the American apart from all other people in the world is he will die on his feet rather than live on his knees. The admiral replied, we don't understand something. Our reconnaissance tells us that flag has been hit directly again and again, and it's still flying. We don't understand that. But now we're about to bring every gun for the next 3 hours to bear on that point. Francis Scott Key said the barrage was unmerciful. And all he could hear at that point were the men below praying, God, keep that flag flying where we saw it last. Sunrise came, and there was a heavy mist hanging over the land, but the rampart was calling out. And there stood the flag, completely nondescript, in shreds. The flagpole itself was at a crazy angle, but the flag was still there. Francis Scott Key went ashore and immediately went to Fort Rennard to see what had happened. And what he found had happened was that that flagpole and that flag had suffered repetitious direct hits and it had fallen. But men, fathers, sons, brothers, they knew what it meant for that flag to be on the ground. Although knowing that all the British guns were trained on it, they walked over and they held it up, Union, until they died. Their bodies were removed and others took their place. Francis Scott Key said what held that flagpole in place at that unusual angle were patriots' bodies. And he penned the song, "Oh say, can you see, by the dawn's early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam. For the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof to the night that our flag was still there. Oh say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave? The debt was demanding, and the price, like all of you have done, was paid." To lead in the Pledge of Allegiance, this young lady was on Dallas, the television show on CBS for 10 years. She sang at our last ceremony here in 2019. Deborah, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. And everyone stand, please.
My father was a general here in Fort, so it's a great pleasure and honor. Yes, speak like him. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.